We will start. We will introduce to you our new products and our new tools. And we have Vesa Pamppi from our R&D, and then Juha Kytöharju, who will present to you our new products and tools. In the end, we will have a questions and answers part, and we will try to answer in between as well if you have any questions. Next slide, please. Okay, so you are all muted, so you can't speak, but please put your questions in the chat box if you have any questions. And we will record this webinar, so you will get a recording of the webinar afterwards. Okay, so let's start. Please, Vesa, stage is yours.
So this is Vesa from Delfoi Robotics R&D team, and I will talk about a little bit first of our product portfolio or how it is in 2021. So we have our old softwares or products, Delfoi Arc for arc welding, laser welding, TIG welding, and Delfoi Cut for deburring, and can be used also for plasma cutting and laser cutting. But then today we are showing you first time our new products, Delfoi Surfx, which is for multi-process applications like coating, grinding, polishing, buffing, and sanding. And then Delfoi Paint for wet painting or spray coating. And then Delfoi Spot for spot welding. And then also we are showing you today our new tools within these products. So we are showing you free path tool, some surface pattern tools, and then how to see the result of the surface processes. So basically these green items are what we are concentrating today. First, let's have a look on Delfoi Paint product. So like I said, it's for wet painting or clear coating and similar processes. And here you can see some examples where it can be used. So there can be 2 robots working simultaneously or even more on one workpiece. There can be a rotating workpiece. There can be a workpiece that is moving on the track, and so on. But let's take a look how it really works. So here you will see first time the free path tool in use, how to create paths on surfaces where you cannot follow any edges. It's just surfaces, and you can manually just click few areas or few points where you want to create the path, and then you can use our smoothing functionalities that it creates the path smooth for robot to move. And then after that is selected, then it's just a normal path that you have maybe seen in Delfoi Arc or Delfoi Cut, and you can modify to reorient the wrist to get the better reachability for the robot. And then you can quickly check that the path is nice for the robot, and then you can simulate it to see the real paint result, how the paint is accumulating on that area. And then we go to next tool from surface path tools, and it's a zigzag pattern tool in this case. First we select that we want to paint that workpiece, and then from that workpiece we can limit the area, the feature that only the hood is our area what we want to concentrate in this case. And then with couple clicks we define that what is the direction of the zigzag motion, and then we rotate the path to align it correctly. And then with some offsets you can fine tune it, where is the first stroke, where is the last stroke, and how long are the strokes. And then of course we have different approach figures or patterns there also. But when you're done, you just hit apply, and then again you have a similar path made for the robot, and you can check that first with our path check tool. It shows with green color that it seems to be nice. So basically just hit the simulation and then see the result of the paint like this. And there you can see with different colors the different thickness accumulating on top of the hood. And now our target was to get the green color there, and the yellow color means there is not so much paint. And we have this kind of a line inspection tool where you can just with a 2D diagram show that what is the thickness over the whole area of the painted hood. And here you can see that even though we have little variation on the color, still on the diagram here you can see that it's only maybe 3 micron difference between each stroke. So we are happy with that. Okay, and then it's in Delfoi Paint, it's all based on the good calibration of the brushes, and for that we have developed our own calibration method and the user interface to implement those results in the simulation. And here you can have different shapes. Now it's showing just a circular brush with 1 peak. It could be 2 peaks also if you have hollow shape or bell-shaped brushes and so on. And then we could go to
Vesa.
next. Yes.
One question about paint. Do we support robot brand related functionalities, for example, for ABB?
Yes, of course. So for ABB, for example, they have a little bit different way to start the paint in different locations. They are not changing or triggering the paint on the points, but they have triggering planes, kind of events between the points. So we have made the support for that also. Yes.
Okay, thank you. No more questions at this point.
Okay. So let's go to Delfoi Surfx, our next product. And in the Delfoi Surfx, keep in mind that it's multi-purpose product for different processes, not targeted precisely for anything like painting. Instead it can be used for many different applications. So here are a few examples like coating, grinding, polishing, buffing, or sanding. And here you can see one example video of different processes where it can be used. So this is for surface polishing, and then another case example, sanding the surface with the spiral motion. And that one is also one new tool that we can have in our surface pad tools, this kind of a spiral motion. And let's take a look on video how it works. So similar style of working here in the Surfx that you saw already in Delfoi Paint, but with small, let's say, small additional features what we show here. So first we pick that red line to show the direction of the zigzag motion on that blade, and then because it's the one feature, the whole product is one feature, with that blue line we are able to limit the zigzag motion to go too far the top there. And then with couple more clicks here, we say that what is the product we want to create the path for, and then we apply the path, and then again you get the similar path what you have in all our products to move the robot and see how it is moving. Here we add also some additional via points to approach the path properly. Okay, some small fine tuning there. And then we call this path from the main routine, and there you can also see on the left that there is some macro calls to get the correct tools from the tool rack, and then go to the path and then simulate the trace for us. With the colorization of the path, we demonstrate that how it affects on the surface. So basically, instead of showing the thickness of the paint, we show where the tool has been, but also we show that how much time we have spent on specific area on the path. So it changes the color based on if you cross over the same area, for example, a couple of times. And here, because we have 3 plates, we can use our cloning functionalities to clone the same path for different plates. And then we shift the auxiliary axis a little bit to get better reachability for the robot. And then we simulate the whole thing. Okay, Severi, do we have questions?
One question. When doing robotic sanding, can SurfX visualize the variable efficiency of the radial sanding head?
Yes, actually, that was a request from some our beta tester companies that we have to take that to account. So basically, when we have a rotating sanding paper in the center, it's not removing material so much that on the further on the radial sides. So we can also do that kind of a pattern for the tool, that it's removing material more or taking account that to do the simulation. Yes.
Thanks. No more questions at this point.
Okay. So then it's a different application. We just wanted to show you that when we show these new products, they are not always like product related. It's more like tool related processes. Like here, for example, it's not SurfX product. It's more like FreePath tool and gluing in this case. And this same tool could be used on Delfoi Arc or Delfoi Cut also. And here we just used our FreePath tool to create square-like shape first, and then this curved shape on top there, and then using external TCP, we created the whole path. And we are using also here our assembly tool, assembly stages tool to get the correct gripping motions between the areas where we move the part. Okay, so then
Vesa,
yes.
Vesa, just a moment. I have a question that I don't know why it didn't come in the chat box. It came to my chat. It says that question from some earlier trials with paint. Is it possible to make a separate line where you program for extra paint, as you presented in the example with the bonnet? To the edges of the bonnet, you may need some extra paint. Is it possible to program a separate line where you have some extra paint?
Yes, of course. So if we reverse a little bit to here. So here we can fine tune the zigzag pattern in any way, so direction of the jig-jag motion, and we can also convert it to jig-jig, so it's going always to the same direction with each stroke. We can extend the ends here, the offsets upon both ends, like the pattern on the approach, so it can paint over the surface if needed. And with 3 parts tool, what we have here, so with few clicks you get this nice smooth curve here. Same tool could be used for painting the edge areas around it. So there are many ways to do it.
Okay, thanks. I got a message that the chat isn't working, so maybe we could try the raise hand if you have any important questions that you want to ask. I don't know why the chat isn't working. But let's move on.
Okay. Okay, so then we go to Delfoi Spot, and I give it to my colleague Juha.
Hi, it's Juha speaking from Delfoi. I'm going to talk a little bit about our new product, Delfoi Spot. And also after that, we are going to show some highlights regarding Delfoi Arc new features. So let's move on. Delfoi Spot, as it says, it's for spot welding. So the main things that we have in Delfoi Spot application is, of course, to create the spot parts. And there are 2 ways how you can do it. Manual picking, so you can pick from the 3D model where you want to put the spot, and it will generate the part in a little bit special manner for spot welding. Of course, we have all these basic things in this application as well: automatic back checking, collision detection, multi-robot support, and so on. But manual spot is one thing, and if you can go to the next slide. The main tool still in spot welding seems to be that most of the users want to import the spot location data from external source, and for that reason we have a spot importer. You can have your spot data or spot point locations defined in a CSV file, XYZ coordinates in part coordinate system, and on top of that there are lots of tags that you can use to give more information for those parts, like process data and approach departure point location, and how that should be generated. In this video, if you press play, we are using spot importer tool. So when we select the CSV file with these coordinates, the software will automatically generate the parts, also the approach and departure points for those parts. And here we used our check part tool. We can see that there are some problems. We have some collisions. And one extra thing that we have in our Delfoi Spot product included is a spot solver that will try to automatically modify the points so that you don't have collision on those process points. So that will be included in the Spot product itself. Later today we are talking a little bit more about that solver bundle with different features. This is an example of the CSV file that we can use to define the spot point locations if you want to bring the data from external source. And the next slide, we have just a small video how to use manual spot tool. So basically you just select that from the user interface and you can pick a spot point location. And as you can see here, In case of spot part, we have a little bit different methods how we create those approach and departure points. Otherwise, the user interface on the right-hand side is exactly the same that you have already maybe seen in our arc or cut product. So it's very easy for a user to use Delfoi Spot if he's been using Delfoi Arc or Delfoi Cut beforehand. The user interface for Spot part is a little bit different compared to Arc because of the behavior of or how you normally create spot parts. Yeah, that's it in short. If you have more questions, maybe we can take them in the end. So the next, or Severi, do we have something right now?
Well, at least we haven't received any, so there might be some, but we can save them for later.
All right. Okay. Then the last thing is to talk about some new features that we have in Delfoi Arc software. And in general, we are constantly trying to make the programming faster and easier. And for that, we have created some new features. We have improved, for example, our cloning tools a little bit, and more is coming up later this spring. What we want to show next is automatic sequencing tool that we have been working on lately. In this example, we are actually showing the whole process because there are people in the audience who don't know the basic things regarding how to use Delfoi Arc. So let's start from the beginning. Vesa, if you can run the simulation. So basically, we are starting with design. How do we want to weld this kind of plate geometrical feature? So first we generated one weld part. We used our auto search tool to generate touch sensing. And then we are using our multipass tool to generate fill passes for this example. By the way, regarding this auto search, we have new features available on for that. So in robot settings, there are more or new parameters that you can use to optimize how the software will generate search parts for you automatically. Okay, so this is our design for that one geometrical feature. This is how we want to weld it. And I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with this feature template concept, but it means that, as I told already, you can design how to weld some part. You can save that information to our database. And later on, if you have those parts in your different assemblies, you can use our import feature template tool, which will, after these selections, it will automatically go through the CAD structure of that product. And when it finds a feature template and geometrical feature match, it will generate weld parts for that feature automatically. And for example, over here, you can see that now we have weld parts for all those. Can you pause it for a second, Vesa? Yeah, so now we have weld parts for all these plate features in this assembly, even if they are a little bit different in size. The software is able to scale the weld parts automatically when it's importing that information. Well, then we can continue with sequencing. So if you are using this feature template or some other tools to import lots of weld parts, into your program editor, the next question is, what is the correct sequence to weld this thing? So Vesa, you can press play. And so let's start with sequencing. First of all, we have some basic selections that you can use. Kind of a thumb rule in welding is that if you weld from inside out, you get a good heat input result, basically. So we have a couple sequencing options that you can choose from. You can see a preview how it would like to do that sequencing in this case, and if that's okay, you can hit accept and the software will automatically reorganize the program or the weld and search and multipass parts in your program editor. So in this case, we wanted to do from inside out, and that's what it did. In this example, we made multipass welds, and many times you want to do separate sequencing for that. So we have a couple options here. In this case, we are using sequencing option passes, which means that the software will reorganize the program so that first it will weld the root pass. After that, it will weld all second passes inside out manner as well, and after that the third pass for each plate. And also on top of that, we have a sequencing option for search parts. So sometimes you might want to search all the welds before you start welding anything, so there's an option for that as well. Yes, that's about sequencing in very short. Many times if you import this huge amount of weld parts data from external source or using feature templates, and even if we automatically recalculate the positional values, sometimes you might end up in a situation when you run this check parts tool, you still have some collisions or joint limit violations or something like that. And the next thing that Vesa will present is our solver bundle that will have a solution for that problem.
Yes, so Delfoi solver bundle. So what is it exactly? So it is upcoming new functionality on top of standard Delfoi Arc. Also, it can be on top of Delfoi Cut, on top of Delfoi SurfX and Paint. But what it is exactly? So it is a set of tools that tries to help the operator to solve all the problems that you can have on robots' paths. So it can be reachability, joint limits, singularities, collisions, or even problems with the cables. And that's what we try to automatically solve. It can be a weld path, it can be some other process path, search path, or even via path. So this is the way how we see it. So it's a set of tools that helps to solve process paths, via paths, search paths. And if we are able to solve all those, then we should have a complete solution for robot program. And here you can see where it will be on top of our standard product. So there are just set of new buttons that what you can use to get from this situation where you have collisions here, you have red markers in your program, you get the full green paths, full green checked program. So how it is really working? We have a video here where we have just few welds and few points. And here we show first that, okay, we are in troubles with some of these welds. And we can also use our path check tool to check the whole program, and it shows you that, okay, only 63% of the program is okay for the robot. Rest of the paths are in collision. So what to do? We use our solver bundle tool first, that we ask it to solve the paths for us, the weld paths in this case. So then the automatic calculation starts, and then path by path it goes through all the welds and tries to solve them. And in this case, it found a solution for each of them. So it's pause a little bit. So it's now you can see it's already saying okay for each path here, marking those with the green icon. And then we can run the path check tool to verify the whole program. But hey, here we still are in problems. We have still some collisions, and 92% is now perfect. So let's see where is the problem. So it seems here that during the via motion, so motion between the paths, we are in problems. So then we click the next tool here, that via path planner, solve it automatically for us. And then it tries to add new points between the welds so that it would be problem-free for the robot. And now when it's done, we again check the whole program, and then we can see now we got 100% it's perfect program. And what happened on here on the program panel, you can see there are new via paths between the welds with 2 or more points in each. And let's see how it looks now. So there you could use this slider tool to quickly check the whole program, or in this case, we use also the simulation to see the final result.
The simulation seems to be freezing a little bit, maybe, I don't know.
Okay. I hope everybody still saw or understood how it works. It has been, let's say, a long road to develop this functionality, the solver bundle, and now we are targeting Q2 2021 to officially release this. It's already in use at some hand-picked customers, but it still requires some user interface work to make it more generic for all the customers or partners.
One question about solver bundle. Is it included to the standard product?
No, it will be an extension on top of our product. So it's a kind of a plugin or add-on on top of it, and with a small extra cost.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so then we go to next thing, which is a new set of import tools, how to import different paths or points. And we have several tools for that. So first one here is importing from any CAM system or G-code, APT format, NC format, where you can import the 3-axis or 5-axis programs from there. Then we have an IFC importer, which is more related to arc welding and construction beams or similar, where you have attached or created the welds in Tekla software and exported those as IFC files, so we can read the CAD geometry and also the weld locations from that file. And then we have XML format, also what can be used for importing paths. And on the next video, you will see one example of those. So here we have a layout with just a demo layout where we have different processes, different robots. So we have one sanding head, one laser cutting head here, and then also one milling head. And now we simulate first what is now in the simulation model. So the milling head here is, or the milling robot here is just doing some square shapes here. And then the laser cutting robot is not doing anything yet. And then the sanding robot here is doing some nice spiral sands here. And how those paths are done, that we saw with the middle robot. So we are not creating any paths here in our software for any of these robots. Instead, we just import the XML file, which defines the location of the paths and also what pattern on that location. So in this case, we just selected one file, and there we had defined already that what are the coordinates and what are the shapes or patterns what we want to do. So you see here that we have 4 new paths for the robot. All motions calculated already. We check the program quickly. It's all green, so it's good to go. And then we can also mark those as green paths to verify that, okay, it's good. And then when we simulate it, we see that there is a 2-inch circular pattern down there. In this corner, we had 1-inch circular motion and then couple square shapes. So in this case, quite, let's say, primitive shapes, but it could be any pattern, anything what you can imagine. It could be used for creating arc welding paths or any cutting paths, deburring paths, anything basically. So it's quite open for our customer to use. Okay, so those were the main new features what we have in our softwares. Lots of new things what we have done, and of course there are many more, and you can check those in our release notes that is coming with the version release pack. Okay, so from my side that's all. If we don't have any questions or answers, questions.
So one question, are the import modules included in the standard version of Delfoi?
Oh, sorry, can you repeat?
Are the import modules, so the weld importing tools, included in the standard version of Delfoi?
Yes, they are.
Okay, we had some technical difficulties with the chat previously. We are now working on getting our questions and answers done. So if you can hold on for a few minutes so we can get our questions and answers working, and then we can try to have it on.
Okay, I allowed you all to unmute. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand, for example, and we can let you speak. Any questions? Now is the time.
Everything seems to be clear.
Okay, we have a question from Joni Ketola. Go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I want to ask, is there in new version of Delfoi Arc, is there also free path tool?
Yes, free path tool is included to the new version.
Okay, that's good, because sometimes I have problems with difficult geometric parts, so I cannot do the welding paths correctly, so that free path tool is good.
Yes, that will help in that problem. Also in add-ons, we brought back one very old feature from that we had already in our old software. So if you install 4.3 and you look into add-ons, there is a one button called manual path, and that is also one tool that you can use sometimes. It was requested by our very old customers who wanted to use it sometimes. Manual path means basically that you will show base wall start end by clicking, and that will generate you a simple work path.
Yes. And I have one other questions about that solve bundle. So basically, you can just do the weld paths and then you can solve the via paths. You don't need to do the via paths.
Correct. Yes, it tries to solve the paths for you automatically. So of course, in some complex scenarios it might fail, and but it's a functionality that uses some randomness in the solving, so you can try to resolve it. Maybe it finds a solution, but then in some cases you might need to help it kind of at a couple points where you want to go and then use it again. But the idea is that you don't need to do anything, just click one button and it solves you the via path.
Okay, good. So when that new version is going to release?
4.3 version will be released in a few weeks. We are not sure yet. We still have to put the installer together and test it a little bit, but within a few weeks. And the solver bundle will be released later in Q2 this year.
Okay, thank you. I'm waiting for new version.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, okay, if you don't have any more questions, if you come up with the questions later, you can just contact us on delfoi.com. And please follow us on social media, and you get information about other webinars and other information we share there. So, if we don't have anything else, I thank you. This was a bit shorter than we had planned. We planned that you had many questions, but that's good. So, thank you, everybody. And we'll see you again.